We have Jupiter in Gemini in a square to the North Node in Pisces today, and I do feel the Divine Masculine really is questioning his future. It almost feels like he's possibly spiraling in doubt and wondering if this was just a story he told himself, if this is even true. And I do think he doesn't even feel that healing taking place. I don't even think he feels his own light right now. And I kind of feel there's this quiet unraveling happening for the Divine Masculine before that breakthrough. We got a major for you today too, Divine Feminine, and it also is in reverse, the Tower reversed. I want to say that your inner world is shifting, right? It might feel like everything is shifting below your feet, your beliefs, your attachments, even maybe your definition of love. I think everything is being rewritten for you. And so the Tower in reverse isn't really a deconstruction. It's a sacred reconstruction of an inner belief here. And so whatever you are releasing now in this transit today, it is going to create that space for that deeper truth to rise. And so this is the block. The Queen of Wands in reversed. And so I don't know if you're confronting confidence wounds. There could be an ego battle here. There could be unspoken fears. There could be a power struggle surfacing with a karmic feminine energy, but this is the mirror. And it's not punishment. It's the portal to that authentic expression and that divine magnetism. And so something is moving today. Even if things are feeling stuck or stalled, this isn't the end. Not even in the slightest. This is the emotional recalibration before the movement forward. And so there is a soul contract unfolding here today, even when you can't see it. Are you ready to dive deeper into the astrology and this message today? Hit that like button and let's get right into it. Hey, good morning. Welcome in, everybody. It is Laura, and we are going to talk about these energies coming at the Twin Flame Collective today, because today we have Jupiter in Gemini in a square now to the North Node in Pisces. And so there's a lot of karmic pathway activations going on this week in the Twin Flame Collective. And if we were to look back, Jupiter did enter into Gemini on May 25th, 2024. It's going to be moving into Cancer on June the 9th this summer. And so when I think about the North Node in Pisces, the North Node is always moving backwards, right? It's always going backwards. And there is a channeling here, I want to say, connected to the collective and this esoteric knowledge going on here. And with Jupiter in Gemini, it's all about expansion. And it's about expansion through information, clarity, download, mental stimulation. Jupiter in Gemini is actually in the detriment. It's at home in Sagittarius. And so right now we're in this very boxed in energy is what it feels like, connected to duality, a choice. A lot of multiple truths are probably being downloaded in the collective, and there's going to be restlessness because there's going to be a lot of rapid thoughts, and there's going to be a need for that emotional engagement. So as you can see up on the screen there, that's the zodiac wheel that we are dealing with, and it kind of looks a little bit chaotic, but when I zoom in on Jupiter, I can see that Jupiter is in a semi-square to Mercury and the anti-vertex. And so there's a lot of deep shadow work going on connected to the 12th house, which is the subconscious mind, which is also the house of hidden enemies. So keep that in mind. You can see the ascendant is in Gemini. That's where Jupiter is sitting. And so when I think of the ascendant, this is like the doorway to past lives. And so right now I want to say communication issues are going to be very loud over the coming days. This Gemini energy, it's moving very fast, right? It's fast moving energy. It's mentally driven, and it is also in a sextile to Chiron. And so this is really going to trigger communication wounds connected to that core inner wounding where maybe you weren't heard as a child, or maybe your gifts were stuffed down as a child. And then the North Node energy, that's the soul's destiny. We talked about that in depth in yesterday's message. And I do feel there's this need to trust, to feel, to merge. And like Gemini wants to know, wants to analyze, wants to have that explanation. And Pisces wants the merger of these energies. And so there's a lot of tension, I want to say, in the energies today. And so we're kind of in this very tense portal of mental versus spiritual, right? And so the spiritual journey is not logical, right? And so it's logic versus intuition. The intuition has to be felt. You have to drop into the heart. So there's an integration going on, I want to say, between the mind and the heart today, between words and silence, between control and surrender. And we don't really need to understand the journey in order to walk it. We just have to walk it, and we have to trust it, and we have to lean in to that intuition. And so I do feel a lot of people in the Twin Flame Collective are going to be trying to analyze the connection or overanalyze the connection. Trust me, been there, done that. It's not fun. You can't analyze the connection. You don't need those answers from the other person. You don't need the answers from the Divine Masculine. You don't need the answers from the Divine Feminine, the universe, or the tarot. You already have the answers. And so I want to say there's probably this energy of doubting the signs, or doubting the synchronicities, or even doubting the spiritual nature of the bond with this square energy today, because I felt torn between mental confusion looking at this chart and feeling pulled in so many different directions. And that's that Gemini energy. And so there's this pressurized energy coming through today of trying to make sense of the journey instead of just allowing it to unfold organically and naturally. And so I do feel this is creating a major impact on the Divine Masculine Collective, where they're feeling this mental pressure and this conflict between what makes sense and what actually feels right. A lot of the masculines don't want to go into those feelings. They want to logically try to analyze everything to make sense of the logical mind. And so this is where I feel a lot of the masculines are struggling with making that decision. And I do feel they're pulling themselves in all kinds of different directions with that Gemini energy. And they are very tempted, I want to say, to seek that logical explanation. They're trying to rationalize their deep emotions. And that came through very strongly in the cards yesterday. And so this is a spiritual journey. It's a deeply emotional journey. It's not logical at all. And so any over analyzing is really going to delay action. It's going to be because of this mental overstimulation. I do feel a lot of the masculines are experiencing, like I talked about, those karmic tests around communication. A lot of the masculines choose to stay avoidant, choose to stay silent. They even ghost instead of speaking up, right? And I don't know if it's fear of punishment, or fear of being misunderstood, or fear of not being heard. But I do think there's a lot of confusion surrounding the Divine Masculine, even about who they are and what they even want long term. And so this overthinking energy is the shadow masculine energy. The mental avoidance is the shadow masculine energy, and the needing proof. That's the shadowy energy, right? And so right now we're being presented with the higher pathway, but this has to be balancing the mind and the spirit in order to fully walk through that doorway. And so the Divine Masculine has to learn to trust in the unseen, to trust in the unknown. And when we use our intellect and our logic in service to love and in service to the collective, that's when we are in the flow, not using the intellect in defense or against the service mission or the spiritual mission. And so I do feel Divine Feminine, you are being called to trust. And so I kind of feel your trust is being tested in these energies today, especially after all of the beautiful energy that came through yesterday for the feminine. You're probably feeling very overwhelmed, and maybe you are receiving unclear messages, because I do think there's like a flood of signs and synchronicities, a lot of psychic downloads and dreams, and maybe you're unsure how to interpret them, okay? Reach out to a dream interpreter if that's the case. Keep a dream journal if that's the case. But whatever you do, do not doubt that inner knowing, okay? So if I go and click on the North Node energy, it's in a square to the moon in Sagittarius, and it's in that square to Jupiter. And so there is an alchemy too going on between the Gemini and the Sagittarius energy. We've got the North Node in a semi-square to Mercury and the anti-vertex, all of this in the 12th house, and it's in a sextile to the Sun and it's in a sextile to Uranus. And so there's going to be surprises. There's going to be a surprise sign. There could be this need to work through frustration, divine feminine. But you don't need to explain anything. But I do feel if you're trying to explain, if you're trying to share this twin flame spiritual experience with somebody who hasn't been on the journey, or if you're trying to explain, hey, divine masculine, this is what we are, you're my twin flame, good luck to you, because that's usually when they're going to run. So don't explain it. Don't over explain it. But I do feel the feminine is oscillating between the moon in Sagittarius, which is faith, which is transcendence, which is ascension, and between the Gemini energy of the overthinking, of the fear, and wanting that clarity out of the confusion, okay? And so I do want to say, be mindful of spiritual escapism today, divine feminine, or even overly dependence connected to the signs and the messages, right? And so I do highly recommend studying numerology. When we understand the vibrations of 1 through 9, then we can clearly understand the signs and the synchronicities that come through with the number messages. So the higher path for you in these energies today, divine feminine, it is discernment, trusting that inner voice, trusting that inner guidance. You don't need that proof. If you're called to go somewhere, to do this or to do that, then just trust it and do it. Don't be seeking that proof. Stay anchored in that presence of your like now moment, okay? Do not overinterpret every single sign either. That isn't going to help you. Sometimes they're just there to say, oh, yeah, there's that sign. Away I go. That's my reminder. My guides are with me. The universe is always communicating with me. And so sometimes we're not always meant to understand every single sign, every single synchronicity. Sometimes it doesn't make sense until later on in the journey. And so use this very tense energy today to let go of the mental control. If it's overwhelming in the headspace, soften into the heart, soften into the trust, and ask yourself, what would you actually choose for your life and your path if you trusted in the divine and you trusted in the journey without trying to grip and to control every little part of the journey? Because there's an information overload energy today. And so discern your sources. Not everybody that brings forward twin flame messages is coming from a twin flame journey or coming from a place of alignment. And so discern the messages. Do not overwatch too many readings. When you're watching too many different tarot readings from different sources, it's going to create confusion. It's going to create this energy of channeling too many different messages. So find somebody that you resonate with, find somebody that you trust, find somebody that brings forward quality to your journey over that quantity, right? And cut back on seeking that validation, because all of the answers that you are seeking are always going to be found within yourself. We all have a similar twin flame journey that we're on, but every single journey is individual to self. And so balance the mind with the spiritual side of the journey. We're balancing the head and the heart. So journal, meditate, go for a walk, connect with nature, create art, create something with your hands, whether it's jewelry or painting or drawing, anything. Engage in using both sides of the brain, the creative and the logical hemispheres of the brain, and use breath work. Use that breath work to center you, to bring you back into the present moment. Sound healing. I got a sound bowl back there. I actually have 2 sound bowls. I got a heart chakra and a solar plexus chakra. I have a couple other sound bowls as well. Use a sound bowl, sound medicine in order to quiet that mental noise. And so twin flames are 2 and 1, right? And so we have to embrace the duality without fully splitting is the big message today, right? Gemini and Pisces energies are always going to be in a square to one another, and they're always going to challenge the paradoxical journey, right? And so there's the knowing, there's the unknowing that comes forward, there's the speaking, there's the silence, there's the doing, there's the being, and we don't always have to do. Sometimes we just need to be in the energy. And so I do feel communication wounds are going to arise connected to the ghosting, connected to the misunderstandings, and connected to the projections. And so practice that intentional, heart-centered communication and expression, okay? And so the journey doesn't always need to require understanding, okay? but it does require willingness and openness. And when we quiet the mind, we do that through conscious meditation, mindful movement practices. And we do that especially when the path is unclear. If you take that 10-15 minutes, put on some binaural beats, quiet the mind, lay down on the couch and drop the thoughts into the heart, and to let them pass through you without attaching to them. Your heart always knows the way, okay? Trust your heart over logical responses today. Choose that presence over perfection is a message. And trust that we're not here to solve love. We are love. We come from love. And we're here to remember that, okay? So that's the message today. Let's dig further into the tarot and the oracle cards. Let's see what other messages need to come through for the twins today. If you would like to go further with understanding the basics of your birth chart to follow along a little bit better with the astrological portion of my readings, then comment free guide down below. I do have a free downloadable e-guide, the 15 basics to knowing your birth chart. It's a great start if you're not ready to book in a full reading with me, or to even perhaps do twin flame coaching or astrology coaching. It's just a free guide. That's my gift to you for being a follower on my channel. I do appreciate all of you so very much. So comment free guide and I will send you that. If you are curious more about understanding the twin flame journey and mastering it like a pro and understanding the mission side of it, I do have a 22-page twin flame ebook guide. I'd be more than happy to send you the link to download my ebook. All you have to do is comment, give me the twin flame guide down below, and I will send that your way. But let's get into these cards and let's see what the cards have to say. All right, let's break down and explore each of these cards and the deeper meaning that came through. And we are going to connect it to the astrology for the energies today. So let's get right into it with the Divine Masculine Oracle card. It is the Waterfall card. And as you can see, it says effortless. And so I want to say this is the core theme or lesson for the Divine Masculine today, working through these transits. This is a big energy of dropping out of that head and into the heart, right? We see the flow of emotions, the flow of water. This is flow without resistance. I do feel this symbolizes surrender for the Divine Masculine. And surrender doesn't mean weakness. Emotions never equal weakness. Emotions are actually the wisdom that we hold. And so the Divine Masculine really is being invited to stop controlling, to stop overanalyzing, to stop resisting the emotional current of this connection as deep as it runs. And the Jupiter and Gemini energy, I think, has him trapped in that overthinking, the questioning everything logically. But this is the heart calling for ease, for trust, and for that emotional honesty. I do think the masculine really is learning how to feel deeply without labeling or fixing. It's like the emotional walls are softening with the waterfall card. And so I kind of feel the divine masculine is probably in a state of emotional purging, whether it's in dreams or sudden tears, sudden emotional outbursts out of nowhere. And the more he stops trying to fix things or trying to figure it out, the more this energy can flow for him. And so when he lets go, that's where he will find exactly where it is that he belongs within this connection. Okay, so Divine Feminine, I love the card that came out for you because it is the Shaman card, and it speaks of ancient healing and wisdom. And so this is the spiritual message for you, or the emotional insight for you today, Divine Feminine. You are the healer. You are healed. Your intuition is ancient, it's sacred, and so I want to say you're stepping deeper into your divine medicine path, or your divine healing path, because you are the one that holds all of these ancient codes, both for yourself and for this union as a whole. And the shaman doesn't chase. The shaman doesn't explain. The shaman trusts in the unseen. The shaman is the one who walks between worlds and uses the inner knowing as the compass. And so this transit, I want to say, Divine Feminine, is activating deep ancestral soul level healing for you. I think you're clearing a lot of karmic wounding related to abandonment, betrayal, misuse of power, especially connected to spiritual leadership. And so this is a reminder to not give your power away, not to readers, not to signs, not even to the twin, but to root yourself in your own healing mastery today. Your soul knows the way, Divine Feminine. Trust in the soul's medicine, okay? The combined energy is the River card. It's the Movement card. I'm hearing a song in my head. I can't quite think of the lyrics. Oh gosh, I wish it would come to me. But I do feel this is the mutual soul lesson for the union. If I think of the song, I'll spit it out there. But you're not stuck. You are evolving, even if you can't see it. And so this is a really incredibly affirming card for this connection, right? Despite whatever's going on externally, whether it's separation, no contact, confusion, the energy between the twins is never stagnant. It's always flowing. It's always flowing beneath the surface, right? And so there's always emotional undercurrents here that move both of the twins towards that greater soul alignment. Think of the river, it's natural flow. It's not linear. The river flows intuitively to the bigger body of water, right? And so this really isn't a timeline message. It's a path of becoming, right? And so there's going to be detours as part of the river flowing. And both of the twins do need to learn to trust the current rather than kind of swim against it, right? So even when the twins are apart, we're always moving towards, I want to say, that same ocean, okay? And then the bottom of the deck, I freaking love it. It is the lotus flower. It is the unfoldment. And so this really is the hidden influence on the bottom of the deck. This is divine timing. This is the soul blooming. This is the gradual revelation of all of the truth. Remember, the lotus grows in mud, slowly, silently, and it grows unseen until it finally blooms. And so there's a hidden process here shaping this connection where the divine unfolding is taking place, okay? So you might not be able to see the progress happening because it happens at the root level. It happens spiritually, it happens emotionally, it happens energetically, and then it happens externally. And so there's a lot being cultivated through this very discomforting transit today, where both of the twins are being prepared for something more authentic, something more heart-centered. And although things feel delayed at times, everything happens in precise divine timing. And so each petal of the lotus opens in perfect timing. And so we're never behind, we're never ahead, we're never behind. We're all just in this energy of becoming, okay? So divine masculine, ask yourself, what emotions have you been avoiding because you felt they were too big or complicated to feel? Divine feminine, I want to say, where are you being called to trust your wisdom today? Even if nobody else understands you or understands the messages you bring forward, and trust that the connection is evolving, even though it doesn't seem like it externally, okay? Let's break down the top row. It's the divine masculine energy, and this is how I feel the divine masculine is processing this transit today. It's the Seven of Pentacles. It's Taurus energy. I see Saturn energy, and so he's in a mental loop. He's stuck. He's stuck. This is a card of stuckness, right? But eventually this evaluation process will lead to a long-term payoff, right? I do feel he's stuck in analysis paralysis. He's stuck deeply rooted in something in his physical reality where he's questioning everything, his purpose, his progress, whether he's doing enough. Do I need to do more? Am I watering a dead tree? And I do feel he's really trying too hard here to control an outcome instead of flowing into that trust with the waterfall energy. And so I think he's being called to trust the process instead of, I want to say, overworking. I do think a lot of the masculines overwork as a form of avoidance. And so his lesson today is the star reverse. This is the spiritual lesson. He's being challenged in his faith. He's being challenged in his spiritual identity. I don't think he sees the light at the end of the tunnel. He's probably feeling lost, disconnected from the divine guidance. I do think he's really not seeing his own inner light with this transit because he's seeking so much external validation or clarity from the signs and the syncs and something outside of him. And so I think today's transit is teaching him to truly heal. It requires hope without proof, right? Believing is seeing, not seeing is believing. He's got to flip the script there because we do have to believe in that higher destiny, even when things aren't being shown to us in the physical, right? But I love that the Ace of Cups came out for the masculine today because this is his current challenge. And it does tie into the waterfall energy once again. This is the heart awakening. This is the awakening to the love, but I don't think he knows what to do with it. I think there's emotional overwhelm. There's fear of vulnerability. There's confusion about maybe even what love means if he releases control of the ego. And so I do think he's resisting the one thing he needs most, and it is self-love. And it's authentic emotional openness and responses. And so can he feel himself without judgment or needing that solution, I think, is really what's in question today. And then the Two of Pentacles. This is the path forward. And so this is about dropping the facade. You see a man naked here and he's throwing the chips up in the air, and where they land, and whatever may be, right? And so I do feel he's juggling a couple of personas here. I think he's juggling a couple of timelines. He hasn't quite left the old world behind. He hasn't quite stepped into the new timeline. He might even be struggling with multiple identities. I know that sounds a little strange, but spiritual versus logical self. I do feel something here is very unsustainable, and this is a call for radical reprioritization, I feel, and this is a spiritual realignment, and I think he's going to have to choose the soul over survival. He's going to have to let go of that performance stability that is part of his ingrained patterns in his mindset, okay? Divine Feminine, the Tower reversed for you. This is Mars energy. Mars is out of the post-retrograde energy now, which is interesting. And so I think you're going through a quiet revolution here. I do think there's a very deep internal collapse here connected to beliefs, old narratives, any trauma imprints that you've been working through and dismantling from within and healing. And so there's a subtle yet intense energy here, whether it's a realization or you're purging the grief over the lost illusion. But there's a liberation here too. The Tower liberates you from the old timeline, the old template. And so you're really not broken, Divine Feminine. You are breaking through, okay? Your spiritual lesson today is the King of Swords in reversed. Silence, detachment, and ghosting. All of that energy that the Divine Masculine projected onto you is asking you to release. You don't need to know why. You're being asked to let go of the rigid obsession with needing that clarity from the divine masculine, or needing that communication from the divine masculine, because spirit is teaching you to trust your own inner truth and the telepathy between you two in the absence of the communication. That's when the telepathy comes back online. And so can you trust the unseen? Can you trust the unspoken? The Judgment card. It's your current challenge. You're facing a soul review. There's old fears, there's karmic wounds, there's past life energies here that are probably resurfacing with this transit. This is the challenge. Don't confuse your ego fear over your intuitive truth, okay? Because the Judgment card is clear. If you listen to the inward truth, this is a test. You're being tested on your discernment. And so don't play into projections. Don't go into self-doubt. You're never, ever being punished. I do feel you're going through a process of soul retrieval in this transit, okay? And then the moon reversed is your path forward today, Divine Feminine, which is releasing the illusions, trusting your intuition, releasing the fear. This is inviting you into radical self-surrender. No more chasing. That clarity is here. No more controlling. You're being asked to walk through the fog, walk through the confusion, and trust that your soul knows the way. Faith over fear. Feeling, not facts. Okay? The Divine Feminine is the path. You are the path. So trust that, okay? All right, the energies between the twins, the current block, the current mirror, and there she is, that Queen of Wands in reverse. That karmic feminine energy has been so loud in the readings for the last couple of weeks. And so there's a couple energies being mirrored. There could be a lack of confidence. There could be a lack of self-worth. There could be a fractured feminine energy here. There's an energy of insecurity, jealousy, fear of not being chosen. Energetically, the connection is being slowed down because both of the counterparts have to reclaim that inner fire and that inner worth from within, not through validation. And so do you feel worthy when everything is uncertain? And I do feel there's still an external energy connected to the masculine here that needs to be released. And that's being mirrored back to you and triggering your own insecurities, Divine Feminine, okay? Three of Swords. This is the communication theme. This is the pain that always gets processed in the silence. The miscommunication, the ghosting, the heartbreak, it's all still very fully present here, but it always serves as that catalyst to learn to trust, right? Truthful expression has to come from a healed place, not from wounded reactions. And so the pain that we go through during separation is to get us to that healed space, so we no longer bring those wounded projections and reactions into this union. And so the pain is the crucible, right? The pain is where we get crucified into the Christ conscious energy, and it creates that space for that conscious expansion and that conscious communication in the future, okay? Knight of Swords is the purpose of this phase, of this transit today, and this is where we are being asked to release the mental karmic debris. This is decisive truth today, and I do feel there could be hastiness, there could be recklessness, especially with Jupiter and Gemini energy, that has to be transmuted into focused truth with intention. And so I think both of the twins are learning to evolve and to speak from truth, not from trauma, right? Not from that trauma-based response. The integration point, the Chariot. And so there's a lot of emotions rising to the surface. You see that great big wave of emotions. And so there's a wave of unions coming forward despite the pain. This is a transit of alignment. This is a card of spiritual will. The twins must align their emotions and their intentions to move forward. You don't have to be in contact either to move forward. We have to go into energetic mastery first. That does require inner union. Harmony doesn't require perfection either. It requires alignment with authenticity, our truth, and our purpose, okay? Bottom of the deck, it's always what's hidden, so it kind of reveals a lot going on here. We get the Hierophant in reverse. I just want to say spiritual rebellion today. I feel the divine masculine and feminine are deconstructing old belief systems connected to religion, marriage, the patriarchy, the government systems, all of that good stuff. And then we get the King of Cups. I feel this is where the divine masculine is accessing that emotional depth, but he's not quite expressed it yet. Usually the King of Cups suppresses that emotion, and that's the silent driver here in this connection. The Palace of Coins in reversed is an indication of instability in the 3D. The false foundations are crumbling, okay? The false illusions are crumbling, and the Five of Wands in reverse, that inner conflict is beginning to soften. There's still fear of vulnerability, though, I do feel, and there's Leo energy coming through on that card. And then we got the King of Coins in reversed. I don't know if the masculine even knows how to provide, protect, or commit from a grounded place in these energies because of all of the over-logical processing going on with this transit. I do feel the masculine is feeling very ungrounded, and he might not feel like he has enough to offer you because you came through as the Nine of Coins, divine feminine. And so you came through as stepping into your sovereignty, very independent. You came through in this energy of divine wholeness. And so this really is a breakdown, I want to say, for the divine masculine, where you're rising into self-trust. I think you're rising into spiritual wealth. That is what balances the chaos, right? That is what brings in the clarity. So there's a lot unfolding here in these energies today. So let's close it off with the messages from the universe. And we got the humor card, and I had to give a little chuckle when it came out. You see the Buddha on the card. And so choose to focus on the lighter side of life. This is asking you to breathe in that breath of fresh air, even though we go through many storms, right? We can't bypass the pain. This isn't saying bypass the pain, but reclaim your joy. That is a part of the healing frequency we're here to embody. And so the divine masculine and feminine, they both go through very intense inner transformations. We go through spiritual loops, we go through spiritual disillusionment, and then we get to the emotional rebalancing. And so sometimes it's very easy to get swallowed in by the shadow work on this journey. But the humor card reminds us that we have to levitate above the negative depths, right? To find that balance in it. And so, yes, the path is sacred. Yes, the path is soul shaking. And sometimes it's maddening at times, but we have to laugh at the journey. Joy is never a distraction. Joy is the medicine, right? And I remember telling my counterpart that many times. There's more to the journey than suffering. There's joy. Joy will bring you the clarity. And so Spirit is kind of gently saying here today, stop taking every silence, every trigger, every delay so personally. Sometimes the universe is just weird. So laugh, breathe, trust, and find the humor in the journey. And then the last card out at the bottom of the deck was the empathy card. Be open to seeing both sides of the situation. So this is a reminder to soften when we are especially in our own pain and it's loud, especially for the divine feminine. This is a nudge to feel the why behind the divine masculine's retreat or his confusion or his emotional shutdown. It doesn't excuse that harmful negative behavior, but expand the lens of the understanding as to the why. And divine masculine, this is a call for you to tap into your own emotional body, to see that the divine feminine isn't just reacting, but she's mirroring to you those inner child cries of her unmet needs and her abandonment fears. And so together this holds a frequency of compassionate witnessing, I want to see. And I just heard, can I get a witness? So we both have to honor the skill of holding that space for the contrast on the journey without trying to control, without trying to fix, or without even collapsing underneath of it all. And so I want to remind you both, you are not enemies when in separation. You are reflections in this healing journey. When the path hurts, try to feel both your wound and theirs at the same time, because that's where true love actually lives. And so I just want to say the closing message today is the mind really is wrestling as the heart opens for the divine masculine. And so we're reminded that this healing is deep for both of us. It's divine. And it doesn't always need to be heavy. We need to remember to laugh. We need to remember to soften. And we're not being tested to suffer. We're being asked to make our love deeper, make our love wider, and be more honest than we ever have been before when it comes to authenticity and emotional vulnerability. And so trust in the movement and trust in the unfoldment. If you would like to go further with me with a personal birth chart reading, or a twin flame synastry chart reading, or even possibly I see a female cardinal on my fence as I'm looking out the window. And so there's messages all around. I just feel if you're ready to go deeper with some coaching or some mentorship, just check out the webpage link below. If you want to join in on my weekly membership live every Thursday, I do dig into all 12 zodiac signs and no longer doing monthlies at this time for the zodiacs, but we do dig into all 12 zodiac signs for personalized guidance every Thursday live on the membership side of the channel. Go check out the links. I hope you have a great day, and I do look forward to seeing you all again next time.